Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today, we'll be exploring a fundamental topic in economics, the economic problem. We'll dive into the core ideas of scarcity, choice, and how decisions are made within economies. Together, we'll uncover how economies decide what to produce, the methods they use, and who ultimately benefits from these choices. I'm excited to take you through these important concepts. Let's get started. Scarcity is the core issue that drives economic decision-making. Essentially, wants are unlimited, but the resources we have to satisfy those wants are limited. This imbalance means that every choice we make comes with a trade-off. We have to give up something to get something else. Now, when we talk about resources, we're referring to four basic categories: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. These resources are essential inputs in producing goods and services. Because resources are scarce, individuals and societies must constantly make decisions about how best to allocate them, which is why scarcity forces us to consider trade-offs. As you can see in the image, even something like heavy lifting in construction relies on these limited resources, emphasizing how scarcity impacts real-world activities. This fundamental economic problem shapes virtually all economic activity. Here we have the Production Possibilities Frontier, or PPF, which shows the trade-offs between producing consumer goods and capital goods. On the horizontal axis, we have the quantity of consumer goods produced, and on the vertical axis, the quantity of capital goods. The curve itself represents the maximum possible production combinations of these two types of goods, given the resources and technology available. Notice how as we increase the production of consumer goods, the production of capital goods decreases. This demonstrates the concept of opportunity cost. Choosing more of one type means less of the other. Points along the curve are efficient production levels, while any point inside the curve indicates underutilized resources, and points outside are currently unattainable. Understanding this frontier helps businesses and policymakers decide how to allocate resources optimally, while considering the trade-offs involved. Here, we're looking at the Production Possibility Frontier, or PPF, which illustrates the trade-offs between producing two goods, in this case, good A and good B. The curve shows the maximum possible output combinations of these goods that can be produced with available resources and technology. As we move along the curve from left to right, notice that producing more of good A means we have to give up increasing amounts of good B. For example, when good A increases from 0 to 1 unit, good B decreases from 100 to 90 units. But as we push production further, say from 3 to 4 units of good A, good B drops more sharply from 48 to 18 units. This highlights the concept of opportunity cost, the cost of foregone alternatives. The shape of the curve is bowed outward, illustrating that opportunity costs increase as we produce more of one good. That means resources aren't perfectly adaptable and shifting production becomes less efficient. Understanding this trade-off helps businesses and policymakers make informed decisions about resource allocation and prioritizing production goals. Here we have the Production Possibility Frontier curve, which shows the trade-offs between producing two goods, in this case, good A and good B. The curve illustrates the maximum possible output combinations when resources are fully and efficiently utilized. Points along the curve represent efficient production, where we're making the best use of available resources. For example, the point at 25 units of good A and 52 units of good B is marked as efficient production. Any point inside the curve, like the one at 0 units of good A and 25 units of good B, indicates underuse or inefficiency, meaning resources are not fully employed. Conversely, points outside the curve, such as producing 35 units of good A and 55 units of good B, are unattainable with current resources, as they exceed the production capacity. This visualization helps us understand the limits of production and the importance of optimizing resource allocation to achieve efficiency. On this slide, we're exploring two important concepts: production possibilities and consumer preferences. First, production possibilities describe what an economy is able to produce based on its available resources and technology. This is all about supply-side constraints, essentially what can realistically be made given the tools and inputs at hand. On the other hand, consumer preferences reflect what people actually want to buy, which directly influences demand. Interestingly, these preferences operate independently from what the economy can efficiently produce. The image here, showing a vibrant market with honey, jams, and sweets labeled with prices, perfectly illustrates this dynamic between supply capabilities and the diverse tastes of consumers. Understanding both these aspects is crucial for grasping how markets function and how resources get allocated. Here we see how resources are efficiently allocated in the economy, guided by crucial market signals. Prices, profits, wages, and competition all work together to direct land, labor, and capital toward their highest value uses. This mechanism ensures that resources are not wasted, but instead flow to where they can generate the most benefit. As a result, society is able to produce the goods and services that people value most, pushing the economy closer to its full productive potential. This dynamic is fundamental in creating a well-functioning and prosperous market system. When workers, firms, or even entire regions specialize, they concentrate on what they do best. This focus creates a division of labor, where tasks are divided into smaller, more manageable parts. As individuals repeat these tasks, they become more skilled through learning by doing. This not only boosts their efficiency, but also raises overall productivity. By focusing on core tasks, economies are able to produce more output per hour compared to when efforts are dispersed or isolated. This image shows workers dedicated to a specific job, exemplifying how specialization contributes directly to increased productivity in a real-world setting. When we talk about self-sufficiency, it means producing everything you need on your own. The downside is that this limits both the quantity and variety of goods available, because you're confined to what you can produce independently. On the other hand, gains from trade come from specialization and exchange, which let us access a wider range of goods than if we tried to do everything ourselves. This expansion of available products through trade ultimately increases overall welfare by broadening consumption possibilities. The image here of cargo ships at a busy port perfectly illustrates how trade connects different markets, enabling this flow of goods and benefits. Here we see how economic growth affects the production possibility frontier, or PPF. The chart illustrates two lines, the initial PPF and the shifted PPF after economic growth. The PPF represents the maximum combination of consumer goods and capital goods a country can produce. Initially, production possibilities are limited, shown by the first curve. After economic growth, the entire frontier shifts outward, indicating increased capacity to produce both types of goods. For example, at a point where 40 units of consumer goods were produced initially, capital goods production was 60 units. After growth, capital goods production rises to 90 units at the same level of consumer goods. This outward shift demonstrates how economic growth expands resources or improves technology, allowing more efficient and higher levels of production. It means the economy can now produce more consumer and capital goods, which ultimately supports higher living standards and future growth. When we talk about balancing present and future, it's important to recognize that the choices we make today directly impact our future capacity. For example, producing more consumer goods right now means using up resources that might otherwise go toward investing in capital goods, research, or education. These are crucial elements for long-term growth and development. So, societies face a constant trade-off. Do we prioritize immediate satisfaction and consumption, or do we allocate resources to build a stronger foundation for the future? Understanding this balance helps us make smarter decisions that support sustainable progress over time. Economic institutions play a crucial role in coordinating decisions by providing clear rules and frameworks. This helps reduce the risks involved in production and trade, making the economic environment more predictable and stable. One of their key functions is supporting specialization. By ensuring secure property rights and enforceable contracts, institutions allow individuals and businesses to focus on what they do best, without worrying about their assets or agreements being compromised. This coordination through institutions ultimately strengthens the overall economy by fostering trust and efficiency. To wrap up, let's review the key points from this module. First, scarcity means we have limited resources, so we must make choices about how to allocate them effectively. The Production Possibility Frontier, or PPF, helps us visualize the trade-offs involved in these production decisions. Then, opportunity cost comes into play. It measures what we give up when we choose one option over another. Efficient allocation of resources is crucial because it leads to higher overall production and better outcomes. Specialization combined with trade allows us to expand what we can consume and produce beyond our own limitations. Finally, institutions play a vital role in long-run economic growth by shaping the incentives and how resources are used in an economy. These concepts together form the foundation for understanding economic decision-making and growth.